Tom, to start, being in camp once again with this group, what's just the feeling like now that this whole Lion series stuff's been a bit more real?
Yeah, it's awesome to see some of your friends and foes from throughout the Super Rugby season, and even obviously seeing guys like Willie come back from overseas, and yeah, it makes that excitement probably a little bit more sort of real. It's like almost within reach. So yeah, excitement's building, and yeah, competitions for spots started heating up today, which is awesome.
With that in mind, how do you manage that while also having that focus still on that game in Fiji next Sunday? Because, I mean, the Fiji squad has already been named. It's pretty strong. We can take over to Newcastle.
Yeah, always a strong side, the Fijians. Obviously, we get a taste of them with the Drua throughout the season, so we know how lethal they'll be with and without the ball. And then you drip in some of the guys from Europe, obviously, some of the most talented players in the world. So, yeah, we got our eyes sort of set on Newcastle, and that being sort of a really important fixture to sort of leapfrog us into what is obviously a strong Lions side in July too.
I'll say you fell outside back Corey Toole in the squad. For Brumbies days, what was it like seeing Toole get his shot back in this group, and what can he really add on and off the field?
He doesn't add much off the field. He's pretty spacey, but on the field, I think we've just seen 16 rounds of, pretty well just what he does every single week, right? Yeah, probably one of the more talented guys I've seen in terms of explosive, fast. He's even developed like a talking and a bit of a kicking game, which has been pretty impressive. So yeah, really excited to see him sort of press his claims, and as a Brumbies teammate and a good friend of his now in Canberra for a few years, be really excited for him to get an opportunity. I think he deserves one for sure.
Tom, 12 years ago, you were a young fella ripping it up at Joey's. What was your memory as a school kid watching the last time the Lions were here?
12, yeah, you're making me. It's a bit 12 years makes me sound a bit older than I thought I was. Yeah, watching guys that like someone like Kurtley, right, who came back and had a touch point with me at Joey's still as an ex Joe boy, and then seeing him, which feels like he's so far away from me in terms of his professional career. So watching him obviously go out there, someone like an Israel Folau obviously had a really impactful series as well. So again, the hype and stuff around, I was in like the boarding house watching those sort of games. So you sort of don't get, or you get the other side of the coin now of how sort of big the build-up can be now as a player in the Wallabies colours. So yeah, you probably probably feeling that sort of 50,000 supporter base that they come across with a little bit more than I did 12 years ago. But yeah, 12 years, I said, makes me feel old. They said that.
Tom, when you missed out on selection for the World Cup, people can react in many different ways. How much was the Lions a target for you in making the squad?
I wasn't thinking about it too much in 2023. To be fair, probably felt like a fair while away. I've said this before. I had really honest conversations with guys like Bernie in Clubland and stuff, and it's your job as a professional to like deal with adversity, and like it is what it is. Like I'm not the first guy to miss out on selection. Like guys missed out this time around. And, they're going to reselect another squad for the Lions tour after the Fiji game. So yeah, it's part and parcel of how you deal with being a professional, whether a sportman or whatever it is. Missing out on stuff is part of life, and how you bounce back, I suppose, is probably a better reflection of where you are in your career.
Do you feel vindicated by being selected here? Sorry.
Vindicated. Can you define? I need a proper definition of vindicated.
Yeah. Well, do you feel that this is where you belong, and being you've proven yourself that you can compete at this highest level?
I definitely personally feel like this is where I belong. I feel like I do enough every week to prepare myself to give myself the best opportunity to play well. Do I feel like hard done by or anything? Like I don't feel like there's any reason to hold on to stuff like that. Like it is what it is. What happened in 2023, and what was I disappointed for sure? Did I want to be part of it? Definitely. Was it something I'll remember for a long time? Yeah, absolutely. But like, am I excited by the chance to play Fiji next week? Yeah, like bloody earth. So it's like if you're going to keep looking in the rearview mirror, like you're going to be like sort of panning back on like a pretty long career. I'd rather just look forward, to be fair with you.
Tom, you had a really good view of Joseph Akusu-Sulihi whenever the Brumbies last played the Waratahs. Obviously, it wasn't a great night for the Waratahs. Just wondering, as a guy who's the man in possession of the jersey, how did you find him at 15 and even around the training park now? I'm not sure like what you're saying, but how do you think he goes in that position?
I think he goes pretty well anytime he's on the field. I think probably it's a credit to like how versatile he is. I think we saw him play in the midfield. We've seen him now play at fullback for the Tars as well. So I think the first thing I might have mentioned was like how good it was to see competition for spots heat up today at training. So and that's like the luxury that the coaching staff have is it's a difficult luxury to have, but to be able to pick a 23 to go out against the Fijians, there's going to be guys that miss out. But his talent, yeah, he's probably second to none in the group, and you sort of pair that with his work ethic that he's got, and like that's no stranger to you guys to probably hear all that. But yeah, really impressive, and he gets the most out of all of us as his teammates, and in particular in the backs too, which is good.
Tom, just going back to Corey, would he be the fastest in the Wallabies squad? What's the picking?
Just ask him, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Hunter's pretty quick over the first like 4 meters, but then after that, yeah, he just dies off a bit. But yeah, I think we saw that in Super Rugby, right? Corey's like first sort of 10 or 12 meters is second to none, and that's often like the most important, especially in a game of footy. And that was sort of, again, we saw that in the semi-final, right? He just had that little bit that he had to sort of just break off, and then he was really good enough to sort of finish the trial right in the corner too, which was impressive.
He's been close. Sorry, mate. He's been in and around the squad. Hasn't got his test cap yet. Which I said there's a couple of things to work on. But do you think his defence and his work under the high ball he's ready for Test rugby right now?
I think so. Yeah, I think again, the only thing you can probably base his game off this year is the games that he's played in, right, which has been Super Rugby. So it's not like he's missed out on a higher representative game for any other reason other than the 16 games we got to put together for the Brumbies. If he wasn't in the top 1 or top 2 outside backs, like I'd have a pretty stern conversation with you around your disagreement with me. I think, as I spoke about, the growth in his game with his kicking and his communication in particular, like as another outside back that relies on his sort of voice, not being able to see him sometimes, but you see his second last set of hands to score a try in the corner, to put Andy away or whatever it was. Something that translates to Test footy definitely, for sure.
12 months ago, it was a pretty fresh kind of group under Joe. How much more confidence is there walking in over the last couple of days, knowing that you've had 12 months behind Joe going into this year?
Yeah, I think this morning was less about trying to like push over a fresh load of information and plays and structures onto everyone's sort of plate after breakfast, but it was more about a refresher and getting everyone like back into language and lingo, and then everyone just sort of hitting the ground running today. So last year was a lot of trying to digest and absorb stuff, but today was just like resharpening the sword, and yeah, it was exciting to see sort of that translate as opposed to just picking it up fresh last year.
How wary do you have to be with the Fiji game? And you touched on it before, but not using it just as a warm-up for the British and Irish Lions. Like, is that something the squad has to manage mentally leading into that Test match?
I'm assuming this is for me, not for Hunter.
Hunter, why don't you step up? Tom, take it a fair bit.
What was that?
The Fiji game, do you have to be mindful of not using it just as a warm-up for the British and Irish Lions? Is that something the group needs to adjust to mentally?
Yeah, I think for us is, we just try and go out there and do what we do at training. Stick to being us and stick to what we do as a group and what we're good at, and then hopefully transfer that onto against the Lions.
And the British and Irish Lions defeat against Argentina, does that give a bit of belief for you now? I know there's a long way to go still, but what did you make of that result?
Yeah, I wouldn't read like a whole lot into, defeat was the word to use, but like it was a pretty thrilling game. It was at like 2:00 in the afternoon, plenty of like running rugby. Is that the side they might roll out? Like maybe it might not be as well as a lot of big names that obviously didn't play. The Argentinians were really good, I thought. Like I wouldn't discard, and not that you did, I wouldn't discard like that the Lions played really poorly, but there's also, that's a bunch of guys trying to come together for the first time really. I know they've had like a training hit out against Portugal or whatever, but yeah, I wouldn't read heaps into it. I thought both sides played pretty exciting footy anyway, for the most part.
Tom, you mentioned it. Oh, sorry, Chris. You mentioned a little bit earlier about the immediate intensity to training today. Can you talk us through that, and also just from the players' perspective, and so players is in the whole squad, what it's like to be so close to taking part in something as big as the Lions tour, and just that mentality and approach over the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think the training intensity is always like at its sort of peak the first day. Everyone's just like chomping at the bit. there's a little bit of like Super Rugby niggle that might translate for guys to see if they're on the opposite sides from today. So this guy and Lenny were on the same team today, so there was no fireworks at training, which is nice. But it's like the best part about coming together, right? Like you get to challenge for your spots, you get to mix and mingle with, as I said, guys from different Super Rugby sides. And Willie comes in and stops speaking French for 4 months, and then he, like we just get to mix and mingle again. And like you're training with, the top guys from around the country, which is sort of elevates your own game, and you sort of start to get the best out of each other.
Hunter, if memory serves, you missed last year's spring tour because you had a baby on the way. How kind of great welcoming a child, but also how tough was it watching on and kind of, the momentum that they built there? Was it difficult being back home as well?
Yeah, obviously gutted that I wasn't on tour, but I was glad that I was there for my little one and for my partner. So yeah, and obviously the boys played awesome footy on those 3 or 4 weeks tour. So it was good to watch. So yeah.
You're the only inside centre really technically in the squad. Do you feel like you're playing a little bit of catch up though, knowing that Lenny filled in there last year a lot with obviously Joey Suwali coming into the squad as well? Is there a bit of, I've got to really be at my absolute best over the next week or two to get back in the team?
Yeah, that's. I think that's every day and every week. You got to try and be at your best, especially at this level. Obviously, guys like Lenny, quality player, and obviously with his combination of Sue worked out really good. Then last year, so yeah, I think for me is just to put my head down and train and try and push for a spot.
Well, what about Sione Tuipolotu? I know that you probably would have been a teammate at the Rebels, right, back in the day?
Yeah.
What did you make of kind of his ascension over the last year to be a Lions player now? He played on the weekend. What were your memories playing with him at the Rebels back in the day?
Yeah, it's exactly what he's been doing now. He's a skillful, powerful player. So yeah, to see someone like him doing well on that side of the world is awesome.
Is there a bit of, I'd love to go up against him, two guys that were almost, not quite discarded at the Rebels, but almost like it would be a heck of a match-up, the two of you?
Yeah, if the opportunity comes, then for sure. But then at the day, it's just focus on myself and what I can do for the best for the team.
Tom, I dare say you've been asked this question before, and if not, you will be again in the future. But what's it like being an Australian Wallaby, sort of in the prime of your career right now? This Lions tour, the home World Cup, which is not too far away. What's it like being part of that, considering what's on the precipice for you and some of your teammates?
Yeah, really exciting. I think we saw sort of the combinations and the style of footy we were able to play on the spring tour. Was able to sort of galvanise a supporter base back home that we were away from. Gave us a lot of exciting support from afar, and then when we come home again this year, knowing that the Lions are now coming to us, that supporter base is there, really strong. And again, obviously the home World Cup being a little bit further down the line, but that constant sort of chit chat about it, and how exciting that is for the rest of the world to come to our shores, obviously, and for us to host. And obviously, I just extended my stay here in Australia because of a few of those reasons that you mentioned. So, yeah, definitely things that I considered massively, purely because they are so exciting. And staying home was something that really, really enticed me. And yeah, I'm really sort of grateful to Rugby Australia for that opportunity they afforded me, and yeah, really happy that I was able to sort of finalise that before any of this came up, and now it's just all about playing the game.
Tom, we interviewed last week Will Skelton, and he said that he took his 2015 performance from the Waratahs. He just stuck it on the TV, just simply to remember the atmosphere that he's going to face. You've faced huge atmospheres before, spring tour, packed crowds. This is another level. There's going to be 40,000 British and Irish fans here. Is there anything you're doing to just prepare yourself for the scrutiny from fans and overseas media you guys are going to deal with?
I reckon Willie might have been watching his highlight. I saw that on rugby.com the other day too. He had a pretty good game in that one, so he's probably watching himself. But sort of throughout my career, you sort of start to pick up things that sort of work and don't work for you. Like reading into too much media is certainly something that doesn't sort of tend to trend in your favour. Reading into overseas media certainly probably more so won't do you any favours. So understanding the growth in the game and how much it's going to be talked about because of obviously such a big Northern Hemisphere presence, which is awesome in terms of how big the game and the spectacle will be, but being able to sort of just blur that out as best you can. Honestly, it's going to be extremely loud. But yeah, like we've got a group of 40 guys and 20 odd staff here that are like fully committed to just sort of looking in our circle rather than looking out too much.
Tom, from the outside looking in, it seemed like at Brumbies you were playing a lot more first and second receiver than potential past years. I think it showed you try assists. Is that something which you and Stephen Larkham worked on or was discussed beforehand, just to round off your game a bit more?
In a sense, yeah. Obviously, we lost Noah early in the season for a few rounds there. So I was just trying to help as best I could, just more with experience and a little bit of voice. With Decky coming in, who was doing an awesome job for us, considering some of the minutes he'd played at Super Rugby level before. But yeah, it was something that I was like a sword that you definitely wanted to keep sharpening, definitely. But yeah, trying to find myself in the wider channels was something that I naturally felt more comfortable doing, but knowing that if it was more beneficial for the team, and then Al kept scoring and then has not stopped letting me know about it. So I was a bit off that, but what can you do?
So is that something you want to do a bit more at the Wallabies though, with that combination with Noah, if he's sort of staying at 10?
If it naturally sort of happens again, then like if it's like for the team's focus, I know that here we're, as I said to your question before around coming in 12 months ago, comparative, like we were able to sort of just pick up from where we left off a little bit. So the structures that are in place here, like 12 can be at first receiver, 10 can be at first receiver, 13 could be there, 11 could be there at any stage as well. So trying to be really interchangeable. Like we're not too concerned, as long as it's not Al, we're not too concerned with who's putting the ball down over the line and who's throwing the last pass or whatever that is. But understanding that, yeah, just trying to keep being sharp in that area so that when I do have to do it, I'm able to just execute.
Are you expecting,
Last couple.
just with Looney, I know he played a lot at 13 for the Brums, but do you think he would be able to comfortably just transition back to 12 if indeed that's where he's selected?
I'm sure he could do that for sure, yeah. I think the competition for spots has heated up so much, even just in one training session. So I think everyone's going to be just pressing their claims for whoever they can try and impress Joe and the coaching staff for a position in the 23.
And Hunter, do you still speak to Sione at all, or when's the last time you had any communication with him?
Yeah, it would have been years ago, but yeah, we're still good mates from afar. So.
Tom, it's no secret that the Lions are going to kick the ball to you quite a lot. If you were doing a sweepstake on how many catches you reckon you'll field per test, how many would it be? And on a more serious note, what work have you been doing for what barrage and bombs that you're probably going to have to field throughout the series?
Yeah, I think we saw a little bit of that in Super Rugby this year now with the sort of uncontested and with the contested catching, because there's no sort of that escort mentality or whatever the word some teams use is really prevalent in the Northern Hemisphere style of football. So we saw a lot of contested kicking in the Argentina game. What will I be working on? Just that, work in the air, trying to win the space. Yeah, definitely something that I'll add more of in comparison to Super Rugby, sort of extras after training in our positional group stuff. But part of the game is, bobbled ball or over-kicked ball brings exciting stuff into the game too, opportunity to counter-attack. So, yeah, just being prepared for that.
Tom, there were great performances from you in 2022, and then but 2024 was really, I suppose, the breakout year. You're now the guy circled by the Lions as one of the world-class players. Does that extra scrutiny on you as a player help you, or in fact is it something you're very conscious of, that just being a bit more of a marked man, you're in terms of what they've seen you can do?
I mean, that's awesome that you've picked up that I'm circled on the, I don't know, you saw it on the, maybe their footage or something, but probably if I just pan back to maybe like what have I done in preparation for 2024 as opposed to previous years, and try to keep that really consistent and not change too much, and just try to be on top of my game to just straight back your answer as best I can. But that's the serious part that sort of I found works for me, and I'll just try to keep doing that.